In this video, we are talking about 5 things that nobody will really think to tell you about regarding relocating to Austin, Texas. And hopefully, by the end of the video, we'll have helped you arrive at your own conclusion as to whether or not it's the right decision for you. Stay tuned. Hey again, everybody. This is Frank with the Living in Austin group at eXp Realty. Every week we put out new content about living in Austin, Texas, the good and yes, the bad. So consider subscribing if you haven't already and ring that little bell to get notified anytime we put out a new video. We also love the reach outs we get now all the time from people just like you in need of our help when relocating to the greater Austin area. So keep them coming. Don't hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team. Whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. So yes, in this video we are talking about 5 things nobody will really think to tell you about moving to Austin, Texas. And I'm happy to be doing another one of our series of what nobody will tell you videos, as it really forces me to think outside of the box, and especially hopefully will provide value, because given most of our clients have been coming from out of state. And so in our previous edition, if you will, we were talking about what it is like living in Austin, Texas, the things nobody will tell you about being here. However, in this case, we are talking about the process of moving to Austin, Texas. And so without further ado, let's get right to it. For starters, I wrote down, know your areas. And this is very important. A lot of people might say, oh, well, South is very cultured and feels urban. West Austin is very wealthy. North Austin is suburbia, etc., etc. Well, it's much more than that. And I know we all love Redfin. I know we all love Zillow and apps like that. And it's easy to find your forever home in one of these apps and really think that's where you want to move. But, you know, unless you know the areas, you don't know what's a block away. You don't know what the streets look like. You don't know what you're really getting yourself into. Sometimes it can be the perfect home in the completely imperfect area. And so what we absolutely encourage, especially if it's possible with your profession, is to tour if you can, to get a feel for the areas, to come out here, especially when you're in the more serious phases of looking to buy a house. You absolutely want to get some boots on the ground and get a feel for the different areas, the different neighborhoods, so on and so forth. In addition to that, if you really can't make it work with your job, as some of our clients who are very busy in San Francisco or Manhattan or Washington State or even Canada, if they can't get here very easily, what our team loves to do is do virtual tours. So we'll be either FaceTiming you or we'll be just recording full tours of homes, of streets, of neighborhoods, to get you as good of a feel as possible. But even still, being here in person really does make all the difference. And that's what our team loves to do as well, touring different neighborhoods, suburbs, towns, communities. And what we often find is that a lot of people who might be watching our vlog tour videos or might be doing their own homework before coming here in person, they might think that they prefer Georgetown. Maybe they have their sights set on Georgetown, and then they get to Georgetown and they like it, but they realize, oh, you know what, maybe we like Leander, Texas more. On the flip side, same thing. People might be thinking they like Leander, and turns out they prefer Round Rock more. And so that's another thing. You might be almost sure of exactly where you want to be. And you know, in many of our clients' cases, they were right on the dot. It is exactly what they wanted. However, in a lot of our clients' experiences, they might actually prefer this other place that we show them instead. And so that is worth mentioning, to know your areas. The state of Texas is so big that even if you're in a relatively small city with a greater Austin area like Austin, it is deceivingly large. And so it's not like New Hampshire, for example, where you can visit all the cities in the state within a day. You know, it might take as long to get from Dripping Springs to Georgetown as it might take to get from 2 main cities in the state of New Hampshire. So there are a lot of different pockets, a lot of different areas, and I cannot stress it enough, know your areas. Up next, regarding what nobody will tell you about relocating to Austin, Texas, is the market shift. And so what most people will probably talk about, and for good reason, are those interest rates, how they are ridiculously high, and I would absolutely agree. However, what these very high interest rates have done is actually shift the market in favor of buyers. Just mere months ago, sellers had all the power. It was going easily 50 to 80,000 above asking price. They were asking for final offers within 24 hours of the houses going up for sale, things of that nature that are absolutely ridiculous, with buyers basically begging in the form of waiving inspections, waiving appraisals. And now, just a few months later, all of that has essentially stopped. Now with the market shift, we are seeing more time. So people don't have to basically make a decision in 24 hours if the home that they're looking at is their perfect dream forever home. In addition to that, prices have dropped. And so a house that was listed at $350 is no longer selling for $400 or $450. Most often, these homes are selling for what their asking price is, assuming that it is correlating with the market value. Nowadays, if sellers have the guts to list a house above its market value, as they could once upon a time, and get away with it, now they're having to do price reductions, and the house sits on the market much longer than it should, and then that creates questions in the buyer's mind. And so a lot of the buyers nowadays are having more power. And not to completely dismiss or disregard the high interest rates, I realize that is an issue, but a lot of the clients that we've helped in the past simply adopt the mindset of planning to refinance as soon as the interest rates begin to fluctuate once again. And to be truthful with you, a lot of the times, if the interest rates are higher and you're spending a few $100 more a month or a few extra thousand a year, that in a lot of cases is still less than what you probably would have had to pay out of pocket if you were going for a house bidding $50,000 to $80,000 to sometimes $100,000 over the asking price. In addition to that, we are seeing closing cost assistance. So as I mentioned, when buyers were waiving their rights to this, waiving appraisals, waiving inspections just to get their offers accepted, now that has completely turned on its head. We are starting to see the selling side doing either concessions or credits or offering to pay for this or offering to pay for that, in addition to having longer option periods and things of that nature. And so yes, the interest rates are a headache for us all, don't get me wrong, but what's hiding beneath that, the silver lining of that, is that we're looking at a market that is shifting towards being advantageous, if not already, for buyers. Moving right along, regarding 5 things nobody will really talk about when moving to Austin, Texas. This might be stating the obvious, but I feel it has to be said. I wrote down hiring professional movers. And listen, a lot of people, this might fall on deaf ears because a lot of people are already planning to do that, and for good reason. However, a lot of people, surprisingly in our experience, don't do that, and I realize depending on budget, depending on what you can afford, it might just be out of the equation. I can absolutely relate. Growing up, we did not have much money growing up, and so I can't blame a lot of people for pinching their pennies and really saving where they can. However, I'm not sure how frequently you guys have relocated, especially as most of our clients have done out of state. And I tell you, especially if you're coming with a family, which a majority of our clients have done as well, if you can afford to do it, if it's not going to break the bank, if you're just maybe deciding not to for the sake of saving a few extra pennies, I would wholeheartedly, absolutely, strongly encourage you to hire professional movers. And a quick example I'll pull from my personal life is a few months ago, I was helping my mother relocate from Austin, Texas to Corpus Christi. It was specifically just her and my oldest brother, who is special needs. He has autism and epilepsy, so he is dependent and must live with her. He cannot live by himself. So that's only 2 people. 2. Relocating 4 hours away. And if we did not hire movers, if she did not think to do that, and she's the type to do everything herself. She's a big hard worker, but in this case, she surrendered and decided, okay, yeah, I need help moving this. If she didn't do that, she would have faced one of the worst nightmares of her life. And honestly, not to downplay the idea I'm even suggesting, but it's a hassle even to hire movers. So imagine doing it by yourself. And that was only 4 hours. I got to witness that humongous headache of just what it was like. And so I realized most people are like, yeah, we are hiring movers. Why wouldn't we do that? Surprisingly, a lot of people don't. Now, real quickly, before moving on, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. If we've been providing any value for you, consider liking the video as it helps our channel grow. Remember to subscribe, and lastly, share our content with anybody you know who's wanting to learn more about living in Austin, Texas. All right, up next, regarding 5 things nobody will tell you about moving to Austin, Texas, I wrote down moving outside of Austin, Texas. And it's funny, I recall a recent comment maybe a few weeks ago, if not a month or 2 ago, in one of our videos saying, well, if you're talking about the best places to move and they're outside of Austin, Texas, what does that say about Austin, Texas? And I'll leave that up to debate. But what I can say is that in our clients' experiences, whether it has been the absurd appreciation in the city of Austin, the price is getting much worse, whether it's been increasing statistics of crime, whether it's been homelessness, or whether it's just older homes in the city limits as opposed to a lot of these new construction, new build communities in various growing suburbs outside of Austin. Yes, most of our clients in our experience have chosen to live outside of Austin, Texas for whatever the reason is. Now, granted, some of you, can't blame you, want to live where it's all happening. Austin, Texas is, for good reason, one of the most sought after cities in the entire country, consistently ranking at the top of the most relocated cities in the country. So no, I cannot blame you. However, if you are someone who does not mind a commute of say 20 to 40 minutes, there are an abundance of places outside of the city that are going to be more affordable, that are going to have higher rated schools, that are going to have new construction homes, that are going to have newer stores, newer developments, and to just overall provide our clients with a good peace of mind. And so while we are not objecting in any way, shape, or form the possibility of living within the city limits, more power to you, I can only relay the data of our experience representing our clients on the buying side, and how most of them would prefer a Georgetown, a Leander, a Dripping Springs, a San Marcos, a Buda, a Kyle, a Manor, so on and so forth. And so that's something I want to stress. A lot of people, they look at Austin, Texas, they look at the median home price, which is skyrocketing. They look at the crime, they look at X, Y, and Z, and rightfully so, they get a little bit shaky in their boots. They get a little bit apprehensive and they start to rethink. And, you know, for all we know, it's not the place for you. The whole area might not be the place for you. However, when you really take a closer look at the greater Austin area as a whole and how close some of these places are in proximity to either downtown Austin or that North Austin tech hub, then all of a sudden you have a lot more options. You have a lot more possibilities, especially if you're coming here to tour and get an idea and a feel for yourself. Now, lastly, regarding 5 things that nobody will tell you about moving to Austin, Texas, we have the very interesting subject and appealing subject of equity. And this absolutely interests me because Austin, Texas is quite unique, especially when compared to its neighboring cities in the grand state of Texas, such as the major ones, the major players, San Antonio, Houston, or Dallas. And so in the case of Austin, Texas, I might dare say, and feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong, I might dare say that Austin, Texas, as opposed, or perhaps more so than its neighboring cities, is more market proof, market shift proof than Dallas, Houston, or San Antonio. And the reason why is, yes, we all know that if you invest in land, if you are a homeowner, it is going to go up. That is no surprise. That is the case across the country. So investing in real estate is always maybe not get rich quick, but a sure thing if you have something that appreciates over years and decades. And so in the case of Austin, Texas, with Google being here, with Tesla being here, with Facebook being here, with Apple being here, with IBM being here, with Amazon being here, so many of these tech companies flocking from Silicon Valley in the San Francisco Bay Area, now creating what has been dubbed Silicon Hills here in the greater Austin area. That is all making Austin, Texas, yes, much more expensive than Dallas, Houston, or San Antonio, but it is also accelerating the appreciation in the greater Austin area. And so while you might buy property, buy a lot, buy land, buy a house in, say, Dallas, Texas, of course, 5, 10, 20 years from now, that is going to appreciate and you will develop absolute equity in whatever you own. However, in the case of Austin, Texas, I will say, in my opinion, more so than the other neighboring cities, with the demand that exists here, with it being consecutively one of the most hottest relocation spots in the entire country, that does make it relatively market shift proof. And so whether it is a seller's market, which we saw in recent months and years, absolutely, to now what is gradually becoming a buyer's market, Austin, Texas, the demand will keep things very valuable. And so while it might be advantageous for buyers going forward to get homes and the market kind of shifts in that direction, it is still going to be like gold. You know what I mean? The land in Austin, Texas, especially because Austin is not as large as Houston. It's not as large as Dallas, that it is only going to grow further outside of the city. It's growing a lot north. It's growing a lot south. And so just a recent example, a couple of years ago, we had a client who closed on a lot in Lago Vista. For those of you who don't know, Lago Vista is about 45 minutes northwest of downtown Austin, and it looks at the north shore of Lake Travis, South Shore being those wealthier areas like the Westlake Hills, Lakeway, Bee Cave, Texas, etc. That client closed on the land lot facing the water. It was waterfront, but it was nothing large, for about $90,000, and the client only put a handful of thousand down and was financing it in the meantime. Now, all of a sudden, just 2 to 3 years later, I would say, that land lot facing the water is now worth roughly $350,000. And so that's just an example. Obviously, not all land lots are going to be waterfront. I realize it is a special case. But for example, with Leander, Texas filling up and people immediately flocking north to Liberty Hill, one might choose to invest in Liberty Hill, Texas, and watch that equity grow, in my opinion, quicker than it would, because of the hotspot that Austin is and the demand we have, quicker than perhaps Houston, Dallas, or San Antonio. So that is something I wanted to stress regarding moving to Austin, Texas. If you are going to be purchasing a house, a lot of land, whatever it may be, rest assured, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not going to claim to be psychic, but I would argue its appreciation will be quicker than perhaps the neighboring cities. And as you can see, my dog is getting a bit sleepy. So, there you have it. 5 things that nobody will really think to talk about regarding moving to Austin, Texas. And hopefully in this video, we've given you a good enough idea of what to expect. Hopefully we've thought enough out of the box to teach you something to provide a little bit of value. And that's the thing, we can talk about what it's like living here, but moving here itself is a whole process that comes with a lot of different obstacles, opportunities, possibilities, hurdles to overcome in the process. And so whether it is, thinking about hiring professional movers, whether it is about really dialing in and knowing your areas, reaching out to us to help you find those perfect areas, touring those perfect areas, understanding equity and appreciation in the market, knowing how the market is shifting towards being advantageous for buyers, whatever it is, hopefully we've done a good enough job of helping you arrive at your own conclusion as to whether or not this is something that is right for you and is something that you are prepared for. And so if moving to Austin, Texas is right for you, and whether you know your perfect area or you don't, that is what we are here for, helping people just like you relocate to the greater Austin area, making that move as smooth as possible, finding that perfect spot, and getting those offers accepted. But again, the only way we can do that is again by you reaching out to us. So don't hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, keep them coming. Reach out to our team, whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. And again, every week we put out new content regarding living in Austin, Texas, the good and yes, the bad. So remember to subscribe if you haven't already and ring that little bell to get notified anytime we put out a new video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Consider liking the video if we've been providing any value for you. Share it with anybody you know. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. That is my corgi named Duke. And we will absolutely catch you later.